This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, school success makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a friend out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, Michael Bolland, who is the managing director of Spreading Hope Network. And that might potentially ring a bell for you guys. I think I didn't look at the number of this, but we had the founder of this whole organization on maybe like a year and a half ago, Russ Gregg, which that actually was one of our most listened to episodes too. So if you guys haven't listened to that one, I encourage you to go find that episode. You can just Google his name in the School Success Podcast and you'll be able to find that episode. But it was a really, really good one. I think we did 2 in a row actually. So that would be even more fun to watch. But before we jump into all things podcast and our guests, I do want to pass it off to them to introduce themselves before we do all of that. So Michael, welcome to the podcast today, sir.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you have that hat on because it really cancels out this Chicago Bulls helmet that you got next to you.
Well, it's the Bears.
So what did I say? Chicago
Bulls? I mean, God, are you basketball?
I'm an NBA fan, so I mix it up. I'm more of an NBA fan. I'm making too much of this football thing. I don't actually care that much. So, rivalries and all that have to draw them out and point them out every once in a while. But dude, love the hat, love the servant piece. So yeah. Hey, Mitchell, you want me to introduce myself? I forgot what you asked because I got.
It's okay. I do have to say though, as we record this, the Bears, we play the Minnesota. I know you don't care, but see, you're in Minneapolis, Minnesota Vikings. We play you guys on Monday as we record this, which this is probably going to launch. Obviously, well after that game is over, so we'll see what happens. But you're a basketball guy, so you're safe.
My whole friendship hinges on this.
But yeah, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you work at? What is this?
Talking about the Bulls and the Bears and the what? So hey everybody, I'm Michael. I'm in Minneapolis here. I get the pleasure of being the managing director of the Spreading Hope Network, which is an organization aimed at helping leaders give the best sort of education to those who need it most. What do I mean by that? There's a school announcement. I don't know if we can edit that out.
We can, or it's just natural. It's a School Success Podcast,
Yeah, School Success Podcast. We're going with it. Okay, they're done. So we want to help leaders give the best sort of education to those who need it most. And what that particularly means is we aim to spread remarkable God-centered education in the city. So we typically target cities where there's low income, diverse demographics, and we want to identify the called leader who wants to start a school to serve those kids who often don't have great options. So Hope Academy, which is our flagship school, which is the school that Russ Gregg founded, the guy that Mitch mentioned earlier, back in 2000, he founded it. And it serves 700 low-income, diverse kids in the Phillips neighborhood of South Minneapolis, which is just north of where George Floyd, all that went down. So anyway, I get the pleasure of being sort of like an integrator for the team, which if we were a bigger organization, rather than a small nonprofit, I would be like a COO. But that's totally not an appropriate title for the size of organization that we have. So I'm the managing director. I make sure our whole team has what it needs and that we're aimed at the right things in this particular season. So
Love it. Well, I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. I'm looking forward to diving into all of that on today's episode. But before we do all of that, I get to give you with the best question that everybody gets to start the podcast off. And it's if I was to visit, because I've actually never been to Minnesota. I've been in the Minneapolis airport, but that doesn't count because I didn't get out of the airport. So if I was to visit you in Minneapolis, what would you say? Mitchell, you need to eat this and do this to experience Minneapolis.
I have 2 answers to that. One would be if you're in town during our state fair, you got to come, because there is an abundance of sort of culture and all sorts of great options. The reason I bring it up is because it literally just finished yesterday. My wife and I were there, and I had something. Typically, the state fair is known for like things on a stick or whatever. But the thing that I had was something called a pizza cheese curd taco. It was the best state fair food I've ever had. So if you're ever at the state fair in Minnesota, you got to go have a pizza cheese curd taco. Absurdly amazing. But in general, one of the things that the Twin Cities is known for is something called a Juicy Lucy. So it's essentially a cheeseburger, but the cheese is in the patty. It's in the patty. And you got to be careful when you bite into it, because the cheese oozes out and it's hot. So you got to be careful to sort of like take a bite or cut it ahead of time and let the cheese sort of cool down before you enjoy the glorious Juicy Lucy.
So that's an actual company's name, or that's what it's called at a burger when a burger has that?
So that's what the dish is called. So there's a couple places. There's two places that sort of claim that they were the first. So there's, I think it's Matt's Bar and the 5-8 Club sort of compete of who was the first to have a Juicy Lucy. There's a bunch of other great places you can get them, but those are the two sort of original joints.
Okay. And if I need to do something fun besides eating, what would you say I need to do in Minneapolis to experience it?
Well, it is the land of 10,000 lakes. So find a good lake and sit out on a boat and, I don't know, do lake stuff. Lake stuff. Do lake stuff.
So, buy a Juicy Lucy and go on a lake. Got it. That's a good, That sounds like a good day. I'm not going to lie. I like it.
And you can even go fly or fishing in the winter too. Just cut a hole in the ice and dip a rod in there. And not something that I do, but it exists.
Okay, got it. I'll be even better with the Juicy Lucy then. To see like you have that in that
Yes.
It's cold and a hot Juicy Lucy. Which, fun side story. So I grew up in like Central Florida in a city called Ocala, and I remember wasn't a chain, but there was a little burger place called Juicy Lucy's. But I don't remember them having cheese in the middle of the burger, so I think it was just called Juicy Lucy's. But sure. I remember loving it as a kid, and so when you said that, it just brought back all this like nostalgia of like this little burger place when I was a little kid. So now it makes me really want to go to Minnesota and try Juicy Lucy. So.
Nice.
Very
nice.
good. We should probably talk about school stuff now, so people are like, what are these guys talking about? So you talk about Spreading Hope Network, which let's do a little bit more onto that just so people know exactly what all you guys are doing. And then we're going to jump into a couple of things. I know you will obviously want more partners, want more people that are like, maybe they're looking at starting a school or being a part of what you guys are doing, but let's share a little bit more like what is the Spreading Hope Network and Hope Academy?
Yeah. So it does start with Hope Academy. So Hope Academy started back in 2000. If you want the more compelling, expansive version of the Hope Academy story, I recommend listening to one of the episodes with Russ Gregg. But the short of it is, Russ was living in the Phillips neighborhood, and he kept driving past his neighbors who were trapped in bad education options. So he felt called by God to start a school called Hope Academy back in 2000. And they started with 35 low-income, diverse kids in an education wing of a church. And it grew and grew and grew. And it got to a point where Hope Academy was sort of it began to have a national profile of schools that were successfully serving the demographic that's atypical of private schools and doing it well with great results. And, the families are really, really happy and they love to be there. And now we're at a point where the school itself is at serving 700 kids and growing towards 1,200, which is amazing and exciting. And there's all sorts of unique issues that arise with that, but also great opportunities. And we're in a very fun season. And the school itself has kind of become a flagship for what is now called the Spreading Hope Network. So about 8 years ago, with Hope Academy becoming a national model, what happened was there was an influx in high volume of inquiry of people sort of knocking on our door, both figuratively and literally, of we want to learn from you. Can we come, take a tour and learn everything that you're doing, because we want to do something similar or slightly different, but we want to learn from you, or we just want to come and see all that God is doing. And that became too much of a burden for the school to handle. So what was decided was, in the midst of a capital campaign 8 or 9 years ago, there was a project determined called Spreading Hope Network that was going to be a separate organization, a separate 501c3, to both handle the volume of inquiry, but also respond to all this huge interest of people who wanted to start a school similar to Hope Academy. So back in 2017, I wasn't on staff at this point, but in 2017, Spreading Hope launched. And then in 2018, our first ever school that we helped get off the ground with a similar model to Hope Academy started in Houston. So it was called Harbor Christian Academy. And since then, we've been a part of 22 others, so 23 total schools similar to Hope Academy, serving low income, diverse kids who really, really need access to a remarkable God-centered education. And apart from leaders around the country who feel the call, wouldn't otherwise have access. So it's been amazing to get connected to this mission. And how I got connected to this mission was I was a teacher at Hope Academy. Now I'll come back to that, but prior to being a teacher at Hope Academy, I was in church planting circles, sort of becoming an up-and-coming leader. And before that, I was in parachurch ministry, but a lot of that prepared me to then eventually become the managing director of Spreading Hope. But I was teaching at Hope Academy for 3 years before I became the managing director of Spreading Hope. And here's what happened. I was at an event at Hope Academy, and I ran into a guy named Dan Olson, who's the founder, one of the co-founders of Spreading Hope alongside Russ. And he said, Michael, I'd love to sit down with you and share more about Spreading Hope. Sounds like you're interested. And we swapped stories and grabbed coffee. We were still kind of getting to know each other. And he said, we're looking for a managing director. I said, what the heck is that? Is that like something like at a bank? It sounds like I'm going to be working at a bank. And he said, no, here's essentially what it is. This is me kind of telling my own version of the story. He didn't actually say it this way, but he essentially said to me, we need somebody to move Spreading Hope Network from SHN meaning spreading, let me get this right. From SHN meaning side hustle network to Spreading Hope Network. Because up to that point, what was going on was there was a lot of high capacity individuals who in their side hustle time were devoting attention to all the emerging leaders that wanted to do something similar. So we didn't really have a full-time staff until 2 years ago when I came on. And God has done so much with so little. Like, it's just a crazy testament to his ability to do a lot with a little.
Whoa. So
anyway, long story.
And real quick question on that. So when is there a whole bunch of different Hope Academies across the country? And then there's the people in the network that all have different names, like the Harbor one in Houston.
Good question. So we're not like Chick-fil-A where we're starting a bunch of franchises. Up to this point, we've had what we call a Playbook Plus model. So what people did is they would come and visit us. We would give them, I'm reaching for something, we would give them this booklet that we called our playbook. And then we would, come alongside them once they were at a place where we could have them enter into our founder program. But they were largely self-implementing with additional coaching. And we've progressively added to our coaching as we've gained capacity and expertise. But it's kind of like forgive the analogy, it's kind of like we're acting as midwives. So,
okay.
Midwives don't stick around for a long time, but the baby or the school is born, and so we're kind of like midwives plus. Like, they stay connected to us. There's and we're actually going into the next phase beyond this, but up to this point, it's kind of had that flavor to it of being a midwife or giving people sort of self-implementation tools plus some consultation. The particular time where we're giving the most consultation is what we call sort of year zero, where the school, they have a facility, they have a team, they have a board, they have legal status, they have a website. There's a few other things that I could mention, but then they're ready to enter what we call our founder program. Anything before that, it's kind of like, here's the playbook, you guys can start to get to work, and then then once you're ready, we'll do more intentional consultation. But we help them establish a local community of philanthropy. We help them figure out where to find students, where to hire teachers, and pretty much everything in between. So I could list off a lot of different things, but the macro process is this. Come and visit, discover what it takes to launch a school. Then we get you into community and we equip you. And then we have you enter into our founder program so that you can really get your school off the ground, which is what we kind of call year zero. So that's a little more detail. There's 20 some schools out there that either have gone through our process or they have had sort of, they've come and visited and they've gotten sort of an a la carte sort of consultation rather than the sort of formalized founder program process. So there you go.
Is that something schools pay for to be a part of that, or like to help, or is that something that they just get it for free?
Good question. So obviously if they're coming to visit, there's a cost for that event. There's sort of that middle phase of getting equipped in community that there's not really costs, at least currently. And then the founder program actually does come with a fee, but we're really helping you raise a lot of money. So, so more details, if you're curious, you can reach out.
Okay. Well, I know that the way that Hope Academy specifically makes money is you guys charge a lot of money for tuition. It's like $50,000 a student, right? From these areas. So that's how it's all funded.
That's where all the money comes,
Mitchell.
Right?
What? How's it work?
Yeah.
Tell me.
So with the particular aim of serving kids that wouldn't otherwise have access, low income, diverse kids, under-resourced neighborhoods and such. We have to have a particular model of revenue for these schools. So there's a little bit of a wrinkle depending on the state that you're in. Public funding and school choice come into play. But generally, with the model of high tuition and then sort of subsidy of philanthropy and donations and things like that, we practice what Russ calls the kingdom flip. So at Hope Academy in Minnesota, it's 90% philanthropically driven and 10% sliding scale tuition. So there are states like in Florida where there's public funding that gets introduced to the model that kind of offsets the philanthropic load then, which can be really helpful for the leaders getting the school off the ground and then continuing to grow the school. So what we see in those states is an acceleration of growth, but in states where there's not school choice, the model of heavy philanthropic lifts to give access to these kids is something that people really need training in to wrap their mind around, because the paradigm is just a complete shift.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. And I agreed. When Russ, when I talked to him a year and a half ago, he just explained to me, I was like, there's no way that this would work. Like, there's no way. I just didn't think it was possible.
He asked the same questions of God. Like, God, how the heck is this going to happen? There's no way.
And then look at this. All these years later, people are donating. Obviously, there's, I think, refresh me and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
it's like more so a person would say, I want to sponsor a child, like, or whatever, per se, like for the school year. And it might be 5,000, 10,000 or whatever it ends up being. And that's kind of like what you guys go off of. Like, this is how much it costs to educate a child here in Minneapolis. Yes, is that kind of the structure?
So you sort of set the cost per student, and that determines what a full sponsorship of a student would be, or a full partnership, excuse me. There's also sort of the categories of like, I'm going to, cover half what it what it means for a kid to attend Hope Academy, or a third. And then there's even like other levels above partnership. You can partner sort of like more than one kid, but like once you get like above 50,000, that's another category within our sort of donor development paradigm or framework. And then there's sort of the under sort of like, for example, me and my wife are not able to cover a huge amount of like a lot of the generous donors at Hope Academy. So we give it a level that is called a bridging partner. And that covers a certain, I think it's like a month's worth of kindergarten for kids. And it's a great bridging sort of program from a standpoint of, how would I explain this? When we enroll kindergartners, they don't always have a partner devoted to them. So you got to have sort of a different set of people that are giving a smaller amount, but there's more of them, but it offsets sort of the entry point into the school. And then eventually they're partnered up with a donor. So it kind of gives an on-ramp aspect to things.
And there's that personal piece to it. Then is like, they'll know like I'm sponsoring this child's name and who they are. Like
Exactly.
they actually have okay, cool. Very cool.
Yes. So yeah. And then there's a whole sort of program that's developed, including partners coming to visit twice a year, as well as getting letters written from the child and so forth. So there's you have to build, you can't just say, here's a giving level and then there's nothing to it. There's got to be like a personal aspect to it. Otherwise there's no clear sort of sense of connection to the impact and the students that they're offsetting the costs for. So yeah.
What I love about this, Michael, is those that are listening, there's so many ways to do education. I guess I'll start with stating it this way, because you'll meet people and they go, well, we have to do it this way, or we have to build this multi-million-dollar building before we can open and do this. And it's like, not saying any of these other ways are wrong either. It's like, there's just so many different ways to do this and also be successful with it. And obviously,
in your living room,
100%. And it's like,
yeah.
if people are listening, obviously, obviously we're talking about Christian school here, so like there might be some non-Christians listening. So, but if we speak specifically on the Christian side of this, if God's literally telling you to do something, it's like, well, he does know better than us. And so it's like, let's go into that. And so maybe you guys, like the school leaders, maybe some of you are listening and this is potentially like pulling on your heartstrings to go, oh, I want to be a part of that. Or maybe I'm supposed to start a school, but I never thought I could do it because I don't have the money to start it. I don't have the resources to start it. Man, there's so many organizations out there to help you. If that's something you do feel like there's like you're trying to go through like discernment right now on what you're supposed to do. And so Michael, I'd love you kind of even talk on that of like, if there is somebody that's like, discerning, maybe God is calling them into something different, maybe into a different form of education or maybe starting a school. Like, what would you say to those that are maybe having like that going on right now?
Yeah, that's great. I do feel like one of the joys that we get to have in the Spreading Hope mission is being on the front lines of a lot of that discernment for many different types of folks. So yeah, I'd love to speak into that. One of the things that we often talk about is thinking about calling in terms of joining with God in what he's already up to. It's a different paradigm. We often think, God, here's what I want to do. Do you approve of that? Is that okay? Should I not do that? Would you tell me no if if I'm straying? But there's this unique paradigm that has been really helpful for us to communicate with folks. That I'll repeat one more time. It's joining with God in what he's already up to. It might sound a lot like the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, rather than my own.
Yep.
But I think that particularly for sort of the type of person who's starting something new, building something new, sort of entrepreneurial, they often have this sort of fear of, is this what I should do? It's sort of like anxious, like, I don't know, but really, it's so comforting to reframe what you're up to as, is this me joining with God in what he's up to? Is God in the business of human formation? Absolutely. So is God in the business of teaching? Yes. Okay. Well, that kind of reframes the paradigm in a lot of ways. And I think one of the stories that really humbles me along those lines is Jonah. So Jonah did the opposite of joining with God in what he's already up to. If you know the story, he's like called to sort of correct the sort of pagan Ninevites, and he does the opposite. He like goes, I think it's is it Tarshish? I can't remember. Yeah, and the whale and all this, but eventually he goes to Nineveh, and he sort of says, he calls the people to repentance, and to his surprise and everybody's surprise, they're like super quick to respond and turn from their wicked ways. But Jonah's upset about this. Like, he's like, God, I knew you would be gracious and show your abundant love to these Ninevites, and I didn't want you to. I don't like this. There's something about Jonah that he just didn't like what God was up to, extending his abundant, gracious love. And I think, there might be something that I feel like, I don't want to join with God in what he's up to, because I just don't like it. God, you're too gracious, you're too loving, whatever. I honestly think like sometimes we don't have a big enough view or a right view of God, that kind of thing gets in the way. But at the end of the story, and here's where it particularly connects to creating schools in the city, he poses a question. And this is literally the way the book of Jonah ends. He asks Jonah, should I not care about that great city of Nineveh, where there are, thousands of lost people? He also says cattle, but thousands of lost people, Jonah. And that's the way it ends.
Yep.
So it sort of like presents the question to us. Are we joining with God in his care for the lost people in cities and in places around the world? Are we joining with God in his care?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that really humbles me is this work is about joining with God in his heart for people, not trying to like manipulate God to get on board with what we want to do to love people. We're joining with him. He's gone way before us, and he will continue to go way before us. And he's always been loving people and pursuing people and creating schools. So we'll start there. We can keep going, but that's what I wanted to start with.
So to kind of speak into that part of like those listening, man, you don't have to reinvent the wheel either. You think about Russ Gregg in a way kind of reinvented the wheel a little bit, because God was like, hey, I have this vision, He
learned from people though.
Yeah. But he did, because like he had this vision like, oh, I'm going to flip it, the kingdom flip and all that.
Yeah,
and he's like, follow
really
the calling.
Unique. It is. Totally is.
And now all these people are joining in. And so it's like, okay, like I love what you're saying about like join God in what he's already doing. And so he's obviously doing this across schools across the country, and people are seeing the vision. They're joining you guys up, and they're starting this thing, which has been really, really cool to watch. And so you got, maybe you guys are, somebody's listening. They're like, man, I have an idea like that too. It's like, well, how about just talk to Michael or talk to their team or whatever, and see if like, is what you have something they could either assist with or help, because there's no use in like using a whole bunch of your time on something that they've already figured out. They've already like, hey, this is what we did. We already went through years of failing at these specific areas that we could help you not have to go through, because we've already gone through it. That's why we love like the Herzog Foundation. They have all these resources available that they're there to help as well for like
Schoolbox. Check out Schoolbox.
Yeah. Schoolbox is awesome. It's like, hey, don't flop on that. We can help you with that. It's like, so there's all these resources. And so you don't have to feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. And that would be probably the biggest piece.
Yeah, totally. Take advantage of the resources. One thing that came to mind to sort of fill out the sort of the hesitancy that people have often is I want to introduce a sort of a broader framework. So we talked about calling in terms of like joining with God and what he's already up to, but there's this broader framework that I think through with regard to calling, and it's sort of got an identity piece as well as a place piece that I think is missing in people's discernment often. So the way that I like, it's 3 C words. There's, characters. So that's people with a calling that might be a purpose. So characters with a calling in a context. Another way you could say it is 3 Ps: people with a purpose in a place. So I think that on the character side of things, one of the things that gets in the way is sort of your sense of identity. To I'm not good enough or whatever. And I think one thing that I'll speak to that end is that God finds his people, his sort of co-rulers, his partners in the dust, in the lowly places. That's where he made us from, right? So don't overlook the fact that God, he doesn't, what's the phrase we often say? God equips the called. He doesn't call the equipped.
Yep.
Right? So he might call you out of the dust, and that's going to give him great glory. That's what our lives ought to be about. So I just wanted to interject that point of identity, that if you're feeling sort of like I'm incapable of doing this, or I don't have the right assets to do this, God calls us out of the dust, and he breathes life into us, and he equips us, and the Spirit walks with us. We're not alone in this. We actually just released a bunch of content on LinkedIn about the 7 myths that people believe that get in the way or hold leaders back from starting schools in the city. So you guys can check that out if you follow us on LinkedIn. There's a bunch of content. One of the things that I'll just end with is what I just said. You're not alone in it. There's often this myth that if I don't carry this all or take this on my shoulders alone, it's not going to happen. But the real truth is that God often builds teams around leaders and his calling that then attracts more people, and it becomes sort of this body of Christ pursuing a particular purpose in a place. So just wanted to fill out some thoughts there.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. Yeah, and I'll touch on a couple things on that before we kind of look to wrap it up here. There was a school I just talked to literally today before we recorded that the guy's the head of school and helping to lead the school, and his background is not in education. He has a marketing degree and what was the other one? Marketing and leadership or something. But he said he felt God telling him to help start a school, and so he started a school, and they're in year 2 and they're doing great. Like he's like, man, like God can use anybody, and so like you said, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. Like I love that, and so school leaders might be listening going, oh, I could never do this or do that. And so never say never, for sure.
Yeah.
And if
the thing that people are believing there is that someone better is out there and it's not me. God, just move on. But the truth is quite different, isn't it?
Yeah. And so if you guys are one of those that are listening, I encourage you to check out the Herzog Foundation. If you haven't heard of them, obviously they're one of the main sponsors of our podcast. But Michael, if there's also people listening that are like, want to kind of hear a little bit more about what you guys do, what is the best next step if they did want to kind of just see more about what you guys do?
Yeah. You can visit spreadinghopenetwork.org, or you can follow us on LinkedIn. We'd love to get connected with you. Anybody who wants to start a school that serves low-income kids, diverse kids in the city, we want you to come visit us. But the best way to get connected to us is via our website, or you can reach out via email. It would be Michael, MICHAEL.Bolland, BOLLAND at spreading-hope.org.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, we'll end with this, Michael. So I always ask every person on here, last question we'll do is, if you were to share one final piece of advice, what would that final piece of advice be for those listening?
Yeah. I was reflecting on all the different great people that you have on the podcast, Mitchell, and part of me feels unqualified, just like the people that we were talking about earlier that maybe feel unqualified to start a school or to start something new. And I think the thing that I'm recalling about my identity is I'm an emerging leader. I haven't arrived. And I think one of the things that is most important for emerging leaders to remember is the deception of being impressive. There's this pastor in Nebraska named Bob Thune that I really appreciate. And I was at a talk of one of his, and he said, the thing that young people really need to grab hold of is this particular idea that he presented. So that idea was, don't be content with being impressive, as if sort of being impressive was sort of this ideal that, it actually falls short. Like, you can become complacent by pursuing impressiveness. It's like, what? I thought being impressive was like the utter pursuit, but really it reframes your pursuits. Instead of impressiveness, you're pursuing faithfulness. So emerging leaders out there, pursue faithfulness. Don't be content with being impressive.
I love that. Well, Michael, I know you're a busy dude, obviously, with all the things you guys are leading as the managing director. So thank you for taking time out of your day to pop on the podcast and share with our listeners. I had a blast and I learned a ton as always. And I love what you guys are doing and what you're a part of. So pray that you guys continue to grow and be able to educate more students that are out there. So thanks for being on the podcast today, man.
Yeah, dude. What a pleasure. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Michael for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what they're doing over at the Spreading Hope Network, and I'm wishing them nothing but the best as they continue to help start more schools like theirs across the country. And obviously, love everything at Hope Academy there in Minneapolis and what they're doing. So wishing them nothing but the best as well. And if you guys do have some time, go back and find the Russ Gregg episode on the podcast. It was really good. It was 2 episodes back to back. So I encourage you guys to go learn more about Hope Academy with those episodes. And as always, hoping you guys were able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better and make yourself better than the school is and that you are right now. That is the goal. So I put out this content every single week to make you guys better. And before you go, I know I sound like a broken record, but I have 3 free resources I want to make sure you guys are aware of and taking advantage of. And the first one is, surprise, surprise, the podcast. We want to make sure you guys are subscribed and listening to every episode that drops every Monday morning, like clockwork. The team over here at School Success, they're awesome. They make sure that that's out there every single week for you guys. So subscribe. And if you haven't yet, would love, truly love a 5-star review if you're loving the content that we're putting out here for you guys. And then the second one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner, there is a button. It says School Success Report. That is our weekly blast that we send out to everybody who's subscribed. That gives you just some highlights of the podcast, as well as some articles either the team has found or written to help you guys be more successful. And it's directly emailed right to your inbox every single week. So make sure you're subscribed to the School Success Report. And last but not least is our Facebook group called School Success Makers, completely free. I'm personally in there. I'd love to see you guys in there as well. Get connected with other school leaders across the country, ask questions, get to know them, and make yourself better. That is what we're here to help you do. So we want to make sure you guys are a part of that. And then we will be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.